Temba Nolutshungu is recognized as the recipient of the 2023 Sir Antony Fisher Achievement Award.
Temba. Temba. In New Zealand, the Māori have a word for the respected statesman, kaumatua. They are chosen for their capacity to teach, guide, and inspire both current and future generations. For this family of freedom fighters, from my tribe, you are our kaumatua, and it is my great honour to present you with this portrait and quote from your own thought teacher, guide, and inspiration, Professor Walter Williams. You can put this here. But remember to take it with you.
Good evening, everyone. I must confess to the fact that I am still so totally flabbergasted. And it's like the first time that I got to know that I had been nominated for this award. I am still recovering from that. And I wish to extend my gratitude to the Atlas Network for having gone through the process of identifying a recipient for this award. I feel so good, really good, holistically speaking, and I feel so excited, so inspired, so motivated as a result of receiving this award. Indeed, it's going to even embolden me when I have to engage with people who are hard-headed and who sometimes resort to ad hominem criticisms when they cannot deal with the rational facts, rational arguments. So I feel very, very honored indeed on being the recipient of this award. I want to share a couple of things with you. I know it is sometimes quite tricky to preach to the converted, but in terms of the work that I do, wearing a couple of hats, so one being, first, the primary one being that of the Free Market Foundation, and also the other one being the Vice President of the South African Institute of Race Relations. I got recently promoted to that position by that institute. And then also in my private capacity, advancing the cause of liberty for all people. And so I'm going to share with you a couple of things. Now, first of all, we know that we are operating in a political environment that is very hostile, especially to the business sector. This seems to be the case in many, many countries, and particularly so in South Africa currently, with a dishonorable president. I'm not shy to mention that fact. And what a contrast between the incumbent president and President Mandela, and President de Klerk before Mandela, who saw it fit to open the political system in this country that had been monopolized by white people. The reason why it is so challenging and problematic for us to advance our cause as libertarians, classical liberals, is the fact that there are people people who are voters, a significant proportion of them, who look up to the government, a paternalistic nanny state, to provide for them. And these people get manipulated by those in power who want to steer the state in their own direction in terms of their own agenda, which has the effect of disempowering people politically and compromising their individual freedoms. So the people themselves are to blame to some degree for installing or influencing government in the command system direction. Before I boarded the flight bound for your beautiful city, I was in an Uber car driven by a Zimbabwean. So I always get to these people to open up and ask about their countries, what is happening now, what is the situation, what is the president of Zimbabwe up to, because it's also messy what is happening to the north of us in Zimbabwe. This is what he said, and this statement was pregnant with meaning, pregnant with the philosophy of libertarianism, classical liberalism, and freedom, liberty. He said, the thing that's basically wrong with our president in Zimbabwe is the fact that he thinks he wants to command everything. He said, this Zimbabwean said to me, you can command anything, education, whatever, people's conduct, whatever, you can, but do not command the economy because the consequences will be dire. He emphasized that, do not. You do that, consequences will be dire very seriously. They will impact on the people, but not impact on the ruling party or the government in general terms. That is what he said to me. Now, we know that it is not easy to influence politicians, policymakers. And the reason is they are very much they have close to them rent seekers who have their own private agendas, and these are the people who influence the direction of the policies that are being proposed or enacted already, and amendments to those policies that are detrimental to the socio-economic welfare of people. They are one of the factors that exacerbate the situation in terms of the impact of policy on people, ordinary people. We know that with the free market, you have a situation, a state of affairs, where the rich get rich, they become richer, and the poor get richer faster. This is true. You see it happening. There's a guy, a fellow South African, who came up to the US, not having much money at all. And that man is now one of the richest people, if not the richest American citizen in this country, Elon Musk. There are many examples out there that one can use to substantiate the point that the free market is the route to go. It's a route to go. Now, when we go about our work, we know most of us tend to be persuasive, and that's the right thing to do. You try to persuade people. That is very much characteristic of me in the political arena. You persuade, but then there are people that cannot be persuaded. No matter what you do, you can throw all the experiences of the world to them. You can throw the EFW book, Economic Freedom of the World. You can throw the Property Rights Index at them. You can throw all the empirically based studies at them. Still, they will not listen. They will not listen. They will not be persuaded. So there is a category of people that is just simply should walk away from, because they are locked into a paradigm which is that of a dirigist, statist, command idea. You cannot do anything. But, however, don't abandon them and leave them to their devices like that. What you need to do is to keep on addressing those people that tend to be receptive to the inputs of such people. Because when you do that, or when with the presence of such an individual who is part of an audience, and you engage them, throw empirical evidence at them that they cannot deal with, they cannot contradict it, and you have a situation where the person becomes isolated, because amongst them you'll find those people around them who are receptive, to some degree open-minded, and they start to gravitate towards the free market, classical liberal paradigm. Because of what? Because the evidence, empirical evidence, is just so powerful. And so some people do have the intellectual integrity to say, well, the thing is, I'm starting to listen to sense now. Now, one of the things that I want to mention is that, look, I've mentioned that you just simply walk away from such people who are locked into a statist paradigm. You're not going to change them, but you isolate them. Now, that's quite a process. It occurs gradually. It does not happen just like that overnight. At some stage, they'll look around, they will find that there aren't that many people that are following them. That's important for us to bear in mind. Now, also, there are one other thing that one might bear in mind is that when we go about our advocacy endeavors, we must try to send the message, package it in such a way that ordinary people can understand it. Now, Walter Williams had this capacity, this ability to make simple, complex economic ideas, so that even the gardener, or even just anybody who walks by and who might not have any academic background, they can understand and comprehend those concepts. Now, earlier on, with one of the breakaway sessions, I related a story about an experience, something I observed when I was in Moscow in 1991, having gone there to see what the impact, real impact of an economic system such as socialism, communism had on people. It was a sad story of affairs. But however, during that time, when this socialist system was being dismantled, and you had Gorbachev, and with glasnost and perestroika. So I'm there in 1991. I went on my way to the hotel, I asked the driver, who knew a smattering of English, to drive me to a place where there was some private business activity, wherever it was. And I said, even small businesses. And the driver knew a smattering of English, as I've explained. So then, as we were going to a place that he was taking me to, I saw this long queue of people outside the first McDonald's facility in Moscow, a winding queue. And I said to the driver, look, that man who is last in the queue in the line will be served next year. And he said, Temba, no economy here. That is what he said, no economy here. But anyway, let me fast forward. So I he takes me to a place where there is some informal business activity that's taking place. And I approach a man who was selling loaves of bread. One could tell that they were home-baked. And I can't remember what the price was, but let us say hypothetically the price was, say, 1 ruble. And I said, oh, good business, and so on. The following day, I went to that same area, and I went to the driver who was selling from the truck, and the queue was longer than the day before. And I asked, through my translator, and I said, please ask him why he is charging twice the price now of the bread that he was selling yesterday at 1 ruble. So he asks him in Russian, and I could see that the trader couldn't understand why I was asking that question, couldn't understand why he was doing that. So he shakes his head and says, And I said, what does he mean? What does he say? He says he doesn't know why he's doing this. Yeah, now it occurred to me just at that point as to what was happening here. And this was the fact that when we know that one of the basic laws of economics is that if you have too much demand for shrinking commodity, shrinking supply, what is going to happen? The prices will rise. That is what the man was doing naturally. He didn't know anything about economics whatsoever. And there he was acting as though it was something that was natural. And I decided to take a lesson from that. And so one of the things that I started doing when I was, remember, in the presentation here, the video presentation, it's mentioned, and I had mentioned this earlier, that I used to be a communist, that kind of thing and so on. Now, remember, because I had been part of that situation, there were people who would sometimes call me at the Free Market Foundation office and say, Temba, what's happening to you? You've now become a capitalist and you are with the so-called Free Market Foundation kind of story. You know, what's happened to you? How did you undergo such a radical ideological metamorphosis and so on? You know, one of the things that I would say to them is, okay, let's have a discussion here. And I don't want anything ad hominem. Let's have a rational, mature discussion. And so I would say to them, it would always be on a one-on-one basis. I would say, look, let us hypothesize that you are a trader. You go to the vegetable market, fruit and vegetable market, you buy oranges, and you come to sell them from where you have located your business, maybe from your home, maybe from an informal stand, and you are charging the people, say, $1. Let me express this in dollar terms. I know there's no orange that commands that price, right? I wanted to say R1 per orange. Anyway, so you have people buying the oranges. Soon, in no time, you've run out of oranges. And then what do? You rush back to the market. You come back, oh, there's an even longer queue there. And what do you do? Sometimes they think, what do you mean? What do you do? I want to know at what price. And at what price? And they would say, well, tell me what you would do. And they would say, look, I would charge more. Then I'd say, how could you do that, comrade socialist? That's bad of you. You're exploiting people, exploiting poor people. And then I would say to him, okay, there's something about this. Because you will do that. Will you do that? Will you always do that when this happens? And he said, yes, I would do that. And I said, welcome, comrade capitalist. Now, please endure me. I just want to share with you a few words here. It's just one paragraph that I got from Carl Sagan, the astrophysicist, about the people who get locked into a paradigm. This is what he said. One of the saddest lessons of history is this. If we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. The bamboozle has captured us. It's simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Once you give a charlatan power over you, you almost never get it back. On that note, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All good. It's all good.